Good evening. It's 5 o'clock. We're going to get started with our regular city council meeting tonight. We have with us Jimmy Keston, the Reverend Jimmy Keston from Solomon's Porch Foursquare to give us our invocation.
Imagine that. And not that I've ever been accused of needing one of these, but at this time of year, with the busyness and the obligations and the things to get done, it's so easy sometimes to forget what we're really celebrating, and that is the birth of our Savior. And make sure we take some time to enjoy the joy of the season and not just the busyness of it. Mayor Randall, on behalf of the Interfaith Council and the entire family at Solomon's Porch, we want to thank you for your years of service to the city and the incredible job you did as mayor. It's been such a blessing, and your support to the interfaith community has been second to none, and it has been greatly appreciated. And on behalf of all of our member churches, we want to thank you for your service to the city. And we want to make sure that we invite all of you to join us for prayer over the city on New Year's Day, noon in the historic tabernacle, where our mayor and our mayor-elect will both be with us as we officially hand off the baton, as they both will greet the crowd. So we hope you'll all be with us for that. Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for the city of St. George and all who make it such an incredible place to raise our families and to live. We thank you for all of our council members, our mayor, all of our department heads and staff. We ask that your blessing be upon them this Christmas season, and that the joy of the season would carry through the entirety of 2026. May your blessings be upon our city and upon all those who have business with this council today. We pray this in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Jimmy. We appreciate that. If you'll all arise and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. John, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Only change is item 2B will be removed.
Okay. Tonight we have with us, before we get into the consent calendar, Jared Edwards. He is our new budget budget manager. And Jared, you want to just come up and say a few words and tell the crowd about yourself? And he is out of high school.
I felt prepared, and then you said that, and then everything I was going to say just right out the window. Thank you, Mayor Randall. I appreciate the introduction. One thing that you had mentioned during the interview process was you expressed your love and your admiration for the team that, if I was hired, I would get to work for. And one thing I can say, having worked for many different teams and many programs across the country and the world, actually, I can definitely say that my first week in this office has shown me what a special team this is. Working in the administrative building, and even all of the other people I've met from the different departments. And so I'm extremely glad to have this opportunity. I'm very humbled by this opportunity to get to serve the people of St. George and the community, but also to get to know all the wonderful people who are a part of making this community such a wonderful place. And so if I haven't met you, I look forward to it. If I have met you, I hope you made a good impression. And yeah, I look forward to it. I'm excited and eager to get going. And so I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
I want you first to quickly tell the audience about your military service.
So I grew up in the area. I grew up in Herkin, graduated from Herkin High School. Served a 2-year church mission in Richmond, Virginia, speaking Mandarin Chinese. So if there's any Mandarin Chinese speakers out there who would like to practice, I love speaking Chinese. After returning, I went to Utah Valley University and did Air Force ROTC program. Upon graduating that, I went to Laughlin Air Force Base. I actually went there for pilot training. Decided after having our second child that wasn't the right path for me, so we pivoted and went into finance, became a budget officer, and then I went to Columbus, Mississippi, in Air Force, another pilot training base there, but for a different reason. And then Boston, Hanscom Air Force Base in Boston. I worked on a $1.5 billion highly classified project. And so if you ever want to talk about that sometime, maybe off the radars, no phones. Just kidding, I never disclosed that. And then while at Boston, I got tasked with a deployment to go to East Africa. So I spent 8 months as the East African, what was the official title they gave me? The military loves their titles. East African Chief of Finance. So that was kind of a fun experience. I was the most senior finance person in all of Africa for the Air Force for those 8 months. Once again, a humbling position for sure. And so that basically sums up my military experience.
Well, we appreciate your service and your service now to the city of St. George. We're very honored to have you, and you will thoroughly enjoy it here.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Thanks. All right, Joan. Corey John's mic's not working.
First item on the agenda is item number 2, consent calendar. There's 17 items on the agenda this evening. These are administrative items in nature. Staff's reviewed them, recommend approval. However, if the council would like to consider any of these, we're happy to remove those. Otherwise, we recommend approval with the exception of the removal of item 2B.
Mayor, I would like to pull P as in Paul off for discussion.
Any others that want to be pulled? Then I'm ready for a motion. Steve, did you have anything you wanted to pull?
Yeah, I'd like to just ask a couple questions about item C as in cat, and maybe a couple based on that on J and K.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as presented, removing items C, J, K, and P.
Second. Motion by Danielle, seconded by Natalie. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, let's discuss item number C.
This is my item I pulled off. This was the $4.9 million. I think is it the first or the, just as a general comment, the way that this Hughes document is structured is pretty confusing, or maybe I just don't know what I'm doing, but it feels like there's situations within this where we are paying, we're double dipping on some of the fees to the contractor, and I'm excited. Hughes is a great company, and I think they're doing a good job as we move forward. But specifically, they've got their general conditions at 10%, plus then they've got some other overhead and those kind of things, which I thought general conditions covered overhead of your office and your staff and those kinds of things. So I just would like to find out if someone from Hughes is here that could touch base on that. I would appreciate it. Gene looks like he's here, and he's wearing a tie, so I like that.
Thank you. this was presented exactly the way that the RFP was issued. So there was specifically called out in the RFP for 1.5% for the overhead and 1.5% for the fee. That was specifically called out in the RFP, 3%. And then the general conditions were the general conditions that was outlined in the RFP. So
So
at this
the general conditions I'm seeing on page, I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No,
on
no,
page
you're fine.
20, you've got general requirements, 498,025,
yes.
and that represents effectively 10% of the overall cost, including the profit and overhead.
No, the profit and overhead is down below that line item. So as you look at that document, the line item number 01000 on page attachment B, that's $498,000. As you look at the specific spreadsheet and it notes what those requirements are in there, that's supervision, the on-site general conditions, which is the trailer, the
Yes. So is the general requirements that are listed on page 20, first line item of 498,025, is that the same as general conditions, general requirements, general conditions?
Yes,
Those
it
interchangeable?
is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
That's the same. The only thing that's separate is you could look at page, as you look at the summary, and it would be page 2, 3, 4, attachment B, about page 5 or 6 back.
My packet is 785 pages long, so it might be difficult to track that down. But let's go back to page 20 for a second. $498,025, if you take that times 10%, or excuse me, if you divide that by 0.1, which is 10%, you end up with what you're showing as the base estimate total after profit and overhead of $4.984376 million. That's where I'm saying that your general requirements are 10% of everything, including your overhead and profit. I don't know if is that how it's intended to be?
And again, I don't see that particular line item that you're looking at. I'm looking at the summary, and it calls out for 3 different line items on there. The general requirements, which is $498,025.
Yes.
The earthwork component, $1,330,171.
Yes.
The exterior improvements, $2,991,587. The general requirements are the specific things that was outlined in the RFP that was to be included as far as the general conditions. Those are typically the on-site and the direct costs associated with the project. The fee, the 1.5% fee is $72,297, and the fee for the profit, 1.5%, $72,297. Those are all established by your RFP. We have not added anything.
Which I agree with.
We've not added anything additional,
Okay.
and we're not double dipping into anything.
Then is it are you telling me then that 10% of your base estimated total being within a couple of dollars of the general requirements amount is just a coincidence?
Yes, it is, because what happens is there's another bid package still to go.
Oh,
So-
I know.
So when you get to the next bid package, there will be no more additional general requirements that are associated with the project. That covers the project complete from day 1 through day 365. So
So
what
the
they've
four-
done with this package is they've just strictly taken the general conditions for the 12-month construction period that you had outlined. That's what's included here. So yes, but when you add the entire project will be roughly $10.5 million. So $498,000 is not 10%.
It's 5.
That's 5%.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
It does. I was just, and that's why I wanted some
No,
clarification from
that's
this.
totally good.
Because I took the 498,000, or the 4.9, 8.
Yeah, the $4,819,783.
No. The number, your base
Oh, the
estimate total at the bottom.
4,964. Yeah,
Take that
4,964.
4.984376
That
and
is
multiply that by 10%.
That is
and
absolutely
exactly
That's
your general
absolutely
requirements.
That's absolutely coincidental,
Okay.
because the overall budget is $10,500,000. So again, that would equate to roughly 4.8% of that total.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
You
Gene.
bet. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
J and K. Steve?
I just want to make sure that we're all clear that the architectural and engineering fees are between 7 and 8+% on this project, and that to me feels like it's excessive. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe there was an agreement that they should be the way they are, but that feels excessive. There's nothing I want to change. I'm willing to vote for it as is because this is the general or the professional services agreement that we already went out and did. But I think we need to schedule a work meeting at some time in the future to talk about how we structure these types of fees because I think they're excessive. That's all I have to say.
Okay, and then item number P.
So P is consideration for a fee waiver for the downtown farmers market. And I think it's awesome that we have a market. It's a huge driver for our small businesses here. I've actually had a booth a long time ago at the farmers market, so I appreciate the work that they do. A few years back, I'm sure you all recall, we as a council made the distinction between sponsorships versus fee waivers, which people can apply for either or both. So I do want to make it clear to the public that this is not a sponsorship. It's an application for a fee waiver. With that said, I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I've received multiple emails, text messages with questions, concerns regarding the farmers market. And were this not up for a fee waiver, I want to make it clear that this would not be a discussion. But when there's some level of taxpayer subsidy involved, if there's complaints or concerns about discrimination, I think it needs to be addressed. So I would love to maybe talk with, it looks like Kat and Ashley are here, which is great, and discuss some of these complaints that have been pouring in, at least on my end. Someone can correct me if they've not received any complaints about people being trespassed from the market.
The complaints that I've received, which have been many, have all appeared to be a cut and paste text message with the exact same language in it concerning First Amendment rights and people being in public spaces. My understanding, and maybe our legal team can correct me if I'm wrong, that space during that special event is no longer quote unquote public space that anybody can just walk through at their leisure. I think that those special event permit holders have some level of assurance, or should have level of assurance from the city that their event will go off without a hitch, and that they'll be able to control the environment inside their space. I don't want to see anybody's constitutional rights violated in any way, shape, or form. I want to make that very clear. But I think that inside, even on public property, once you have a special event that has been approved, those special event permit holders should have some level of assurance that their event can go off without a hitch.
Yeah, and I think we've all talked about this because we have been receiving these text messages. I think the example that we've used is if I was to reserve the park for my wedding, and then there was no level of reassurance that someone couldn't just walk right into that space and do whatever they wanted during my wedding celebration. So we do have to have a separation when people are reserving these spaces. So I don't know if Kat and Ashley want to share what their experience has been. There is one resident who we know has been trespassed, and maybe the police department could share also what their experience was with that and how we're taking care of that. We do want to make sure that we protect people's constitutional rights, and we also want people to be able to have an effective farmers market. So that's what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I want to make clear too, because I agree with your example of if you're holding a private event, even if it's on public property, you do have a certain level of protection of who you want to have come in and out of there. I think where the confusion has been on this particular situation, and we have our legal expert here who can correct me if I'm wrong. I think some of the concern is coming in now with the fee waiver is if there's that added taxpayer subsidy involved of not just a private event, but now there's a level of a fee waiver happening to assure that there's not truly, we're going to trespass this person, but not this person, but they're doing the exact same thing, but maybe on different sides of the aisle. So I think that's where my question comes in, is I just want to make sure that there's not, some level of picking winners and losers, as this is not necessarily a private wedding event, but there is a certain level of taxpayer involvement with the subsidy involved. Because if that fee waiver wasn't there, I don't think we would even be having this conversation or needing to address who's being allowed in and out of an event. One other thing too, I wanted to read to just for the public as well, is what our policy actually states and what we're actually considering here as a council in terms of fee waivers. Any other, markets, they can apply for a fee waiver. This is not a unique situation that we're making, just specific to one group. We've had other markets in town actually that have also taken advantage of this as well, because it is such a benefit for the community. So what our policy actually says for us to consider in granting a fee waiver is, number one, that the applicant provides evidence of their inability to pay fees, or number two, shows good cause that the event promotes the health, safety, or welfare of the citizens, and why the fees should be waived, and the event subsidized by taxpayers. And number three, provides evidence of other remuneration, can't say that, or benefit that the city will receive in lieu of fees. So that's really what we're considering here. But I would love to hear maybe what the experience has been from the downtown farmers market and from our law enforcement as well.
But first, Ryan, you're up. And then on deck, Chief Whitehead, and then Kat.
So that's correct. A special event permit is a time, place, manner restriction on government property. So during the time of the event space is considered private space. So that's why we have insurance to cover it. These special event folks, they have insurance to cover our property. So whether or not the city waives the fee does not really endorse or not endorse the activities of the special event holder.
Ryan, if I'm correct, then it's up to them to decide who they're going to trespass or not. It's not the city's responsibility or action.
We treat it as it's private space. So when they are reserving it, that's why we have the special event process, the permitting process. There is a use agreement, which is essentially the rental agreement. And so it's up to the special event permit holder to determine what's the conduct within the confines of that time, place, manner, that space, whether it's at the park or it's at a city building or some other government property.
And my understanding, they've posted, and there are corner markers, boundaries at their farmers market, and the public is free to sit outside that boundary. I don't know, like maybe you have to stay moving, you can't plant something, you can't put a table down, but you could sit at a park bench adjacent to that activity as or any other park, but just not inside their space.
I've actually been to the farmers market when it was during one of the elections when somebody was collecting signatures, and they were inside the farmers market. Kat and Ashley told them where they could be, not in the farmers market. So the guy literally took his table and went outside the farmers market and kept collecting signatures. They have marked off with flags where it is. And then just a few weeks ago, a couple of people showed up they're saying they're not protesting, but to engage with the public. And Kat and Ashley told them where they could do that, and literally took their chairs from their booth and gave them their chairs and sat them just outside the farmer's market space and let them sit there for the whole entire time of the market. So I think they're treating everybody fairly. I know that when the No Kings protest was happening, there were people walking through with signs, and Kat and Ashley asked them to please leave. They weren't allowed to be there, and they left. So that's the difference, and Chief can explain. If they're asked to leave and they don't, then that's when it kind of gets elevated to you guys.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Kyle Whitehead with the Police Department. So I went back and I looked at some statistics from this past year. I was curious because I knew this item was going to be on the agenda. Keep in mind, we look at the farmers market like any private business because they've gone through the licensing process. We've worked with legal. They essentially own that space for that period of time. And the people who are organizers, they can say what can and can't go within those boundaries. And so typically when we get called there, we're not there to enforce rules of the business or rules of the farmers market. We're there to look for law violations. And just like any business, when someone is asked to leave and they refuse, that's criminal trespass, and which is what happened in the situation many of you are probably receiving emails about. Now, keep in mind, this individual had been told on many occasions, including as we would respond, that notified and informed of what the law is, what's allowed and what's not. And so it was after several attempts to gain voluntary compliance, this individual was cited. In the last year, we have only had 5 incidences that I could find that were on record of where we actually had to respond to the farmers market for people that were being disruptive, confronting people in booths, many number of things, but only 5 instances that the police were called out of however many farmers markets we have a year. So we're really not called there a lot. And keep in mind, there may be other interactions where people are approached by the farmers market staff. We would never get called because our expectation is they try and handle the situation first. Then if they can't get it resolved, then certainly notify us and we'll come and try and fix it.
Chief, how many trespasses have there actually been of those 5 instances where law enforcement were called? Do you know how many of those resulted in? Because it's my understanding, I mean, I think, like Mayor mentioned, the No Kings protest, when they came, I think police were there, they were asked to move, and they did, correct? So no one was trespassed in that situation.
The only person I'm aware of was the one citizen, and then there may have been a person that individual was with who may have also. When I read the report, it kind of left it a little bit vague, and I didn't go into the details to really verify. So one for sure, potentially a second who was kind of there videoing and kind of instigating things as well. But those are the only 2 that I'm aware of have been trespassed from the farmers market.
Kat, you have anything you want to add? You don't have to if you don't want to.
So yeah, there's only one. The second one ended up leaving, and so we didn't trespass them. And we explain every single time, look, this is a community event. There are plenty of spaces where you can have different opinions and you can express those, but here we want to host an event where everyone can come, feel welcome, and enjoy and build community, because that's what we fight for, is communal spaces where everyone can be together and not think that it's us versus them. So in our guidelines, in all of our operating standards, we've always maintained a neutral, like, this is a community event. We ask very respectfully for them to just step outside the bounds. We ask repeatedly. This is not the first time we've encountered this individual. We all know that they know the rules, again, from 3 years ago, because we went through this same process and never ended up trespassing them then because they followed the rules. And so now it's recurring again. And that's the only time we've trespassed somebody. And part of the reason why we trespassed it too is because we would approach, explain exactly what was happening. I would say, you can go here, you can go there, I'll give you our chairs, which is, I've offered it to every single signature collector, protester. I'm like, you are welcome to be here right on the outside, just as long as it's not inside these bounds, you can use our chairs. And every time it's very combative and challenging. And there's posts where they have called other people to come and do the same thing to us. There's a long line of evidence online that it is targeting towards us. And I just feel like for our safety at this point, or even to maintain the businesses, I even told them one time, I was like, look, my stance is I'm defending these businesses. You guys stood in this walkway for 30 minutes and I watched you. And for 30 to 45 minutes while we tried to remove you, there were 6 businesses, one here, one in front of you guys, one here, and the other 3 on the other side, that no one would even come near their booths. They'd turn around and walk away, or somebody would walk through and not stop because they were like, I don't want to be recorded. I don't know what's going on. So I was like, there's 6 businesses that for at least 45 minutes didn't have a single sale. So I was like, this is affecting their businesses in the middle of walkways where we have other community members trying to go, and it's also not something that's on our insurance. It's not something we cover, and it doesn't meet our guidelines. So as long as you guys go outside the bounds, we're good. And that's been our experience. And we're just trying to run a farmer's market.
So thank you for that. And I think we've had really good discussion and explanation. All of this is the way I understood it. I'm going to kind of take us back to why we're here. How many on average businesses or booths do you typically have at the farmer's market?
In the summertime, it drops down. It's like 60 to 70. And then in the wintertime, sometimes we've been breaking 100, but right now it's like 80.
And how much is it to have a booth, roughly?
We keep it low. It's $25 for the farmers. It's $40 for bakers and $45 for artisans.
So would it be fair to say by us waiving our fee, it helps you to keep the fee down for all of those small businesses?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Because the only reason we've ever been able to keep it down without the fee waiver is because we've been able to get sponsorships. And this year, just with a lot of what's shifting and going on, it's been harder. So there's definitely going to need to be a booth fee raise if we don't have a fee waiver.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just one last, to go off of Jimmy's comment, you have had a couple of people who started at the farmers market that are now in brick and mortar stores.
Yeah, I think that the farmers market is absolutely critical, not only in strengthening communities, but it gives these entry points. So you can start a restaurant with huge overhead and your profit margins in food are 5 to 10%. So you can start out with a ton of debt and hope that it works and hope that it builds, or you can start at a farmer's market, prove your concept, prove your product, gain a following, and transition into brick and mortar. We've seen it with Sandtown. We've seen it with Noodles and Dumpling. We've had several that have gone or moved away, but we do have a lot of people that have started at the farmer's market and now have brick and mortars.
Great point, Mayor. And last thing is, just for clarification, what's the fee amount that we're waiving?
I think it comes out to $20,000 a year.
Of fees?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's $450 per event.
Yeah.
Per event.
And we would be willing, the council has all said they would be willing if another farmer's market wanted to start up somewhere to waive those fees as well. There's a lot of cities that run their own farmer's market, and thank goodness Shane and Sadie are back there going, oh, no way. We're glad somebody else wants to do it.
And I think you should. I think every community needs their own farmer's market. But I was introduced into St. George, and that's where I started, and I love the community that we built, but there should be more than one.
You know, when you brought up standing in front of a food booth and the small percentage that people who sell food make, and to take somebody out of the market really half the time they're there that day, the loss they suffered personally was great. And I'm sensitive to that because we used to own the Frost Stop on the boulevard, and spring break would come and we'd lose 2 days of businesses because of the pedestrians on the street and the traffic, and there was nothing really we could do about it. But it was hard on us as a business, but we had, 300 other days of the years to work off, and these people only have 3 or 4 hours on Saturday. And if you have fruit or vegetables that are going to spoil, what are you doing with them then?
Yeah.
Or bread. So for me, it's unfortunate that this has happened, and I hope that, people will feel safe at the farmers market. We want them to do that. I gave you a lot of pushback initially. When I drive by, when I see people, when I see the sense of community, I was talking to somebody, I don't think sometimes people actually intend to really go there and buy a ton of tomatoes to do or whatever, but it's a place where people can belong, where people can grab a snack, a drink, see their neighbors, see their community, and that's really important to me in these city parks, that we create something for everybody. And I feel like you've been very responsible with this. I love how you have handled this, because I think you have tried across the board to all these people you've mentioned today, that you've tried to say, you don't have to leave the park, you just have to stand outside our boundaries and we're good.
Yeah.
And across the board, you've said that to everybody, and I believe that.
Thank you.
To build on Councilman Hughes, Mayor-elect Hughes' comments, I just took those numbers, average of 75 booths. If each one of them did $500 worth of business, that'd be $3,750 times our 6.45% sales tax rate. That's $2,418 in sales tax. Now, I know that does not come to St. George, but that comes into the community in different ways through the state and the county. If each booth only did $300 in business, that would be $22,500 in revenue and $1,451 in just sales tax.
Yeah.
So the other benefits of community and those other things aside, Councilman Hughes got me thinking about the actual economic benefits, and they are a multiple of the fees that are being waived.
Yeah, I was like, you guys get a lot of the sales tax, and it's great and I'm so happy for them, because we've had so many of our artisans, like I've heard Ashley and I cry all the time at the farmers market. It's ridiculous. I'm almost 40, so it must be perimenopause. But they come up to us and they will tell us, like, I was working 3 or 4 jobs here and there, or I was working side hustles and kind of doing this as a passion, trying to juggle my kids, and I've been able to step away completely and have a second income off of working at the farmers market 1 day a week. So you're providing a better quality of life for the artisans and for the bakers and for the farmers that are there. Obviously, the farmers need any outlet they can get, but it is bringing a lot of money into the community and a lot of tax dollars back.
Final thing I'm going to say, Kat, when you guys applied for a fee waiver, I called Shane and said, how much time are we having to spend down there? And he said, you guys are the best renters they've ever had. They never have to come in and clean up after you or anything. So thank you. And Shane just gave you a thumbs up. We appreciate that you respect the park, and I think you're running a great market. People love it. It is a sense of community down there, and so keep it up. And with that, are we done with the consent calendar?
Wait, not yet.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I have a question for Ryan, and I appreciate too that, I don't have any questions
Thank you,
for Kat. And I appreciate that the city is not running the farmers market and that there's people willing to do that and provide the opportunity. I have a question with the policy, actually, and maybe this is something we need to clean up for future. But where it has the bullet points under the fee waiver of 1, 2, 3 that provides evidence of their inability to pay, is that mandatory, or is that an or number 2 on the policy, which would be or shows good cause, but there's no and or. I'm just wondering if that's actually required, because I mean, it's my understanding that sometimes the fees have been waived, sometimes they haven't with the particular downtown farmers market. There's been sponsorships that have helped. So I'm just wondering if that's something we need to clean up for future. If we are waiving the fees in this situation, would they have to technically, our policy, show an inability to pay the fees?
So this is in the city code, so it's not a policy, it's our code, and it's a semicolon, so, and I love arguing about a good semicolon, but I would say that because we have an and in there, that the inability to pay, and I didn't hear this, but I would assume that the farmers market might lose some artisans if the fees weren't waived. And so, and we've heard that there were sponsorships that they lost, and so, or that it would be raised. So inability to pay, I think that's up for you to determine if that meets it. But I would say that those three things need to all be addressed.
I think that we need to, that's a really great point that Michelle brought up, and I think we need to change it to an and or, because just below this fee waiver, we have the fee waiver for the Dove Center, and we've never required any of those groups to show us that they couldn't pay, right? Like, we're basically saying, we understand this as a benefit to the community, that's why we're waiving the fee. So I think that we need to clean that up.
With all that being said, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mayor, that we approve the remainder of the consent calendar as presented, items C, J, K, and P.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Steve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 3 is a public hearing and consideration of resolution number 2025-029R to review and approve amendments to the fiscal year 2025 and 26 budget.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight's budget amendment has 4 items on it. 2 of those items we will actually not be presenting tonight. Those were related to item 2B, which was pulled off to tonight's agenda. So I will present the remaining 2 items for your consideration. Item 1 is a request from staff to amend the budget for professional service costs associated with the construction of a new animal shelter. The PSA that was on tonight's agenda was in the amount of $285,000. This year's budget included $75,000 in the budget for the remaining costs of the original needs assessment, but also initial design costs. We actually have a balance of $59,000 available from that funding, and so we would request to amend the budget amount of $226,000 to fully fund that PSA that was on tonight's agenda. Funding for this request come from our General Capital Project Fund balance for that item. Item 3, which is the second item for your consideration tonight in tonight's budget amendment, is a request from our Parks and Community Services Department to add funds for the prefabricated pedestrian bridge structure for the Lizard Wash Park, which is another item on the consent agenda. In November 2023, voters approved a $29 million GO bond that funded a number of trails, parks, and park facility improvements throughout the community. The Lizard Wash Park was one of those projects. This is a community park planned in the Desert Color community. This park includes a bike park, playground, pond, pickleball court, pavilion, and restroom facilities. The total overall budget for the project will be $5 million. The fiscal year 26 budget only included $150,000 in it for initial design work. Staff would request to amend the budget in the amount of $29,541 to fully fund the pedestrian bridge portion of that project. The future we'd come back to staff for future budget openings as we get further along in that project. Funding for that project would come from our GO bond funds that were issued in 2024. And with that completes my 2 items for council's consideration. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Robert? Not, I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Public hearing.
It's public hearing, sorry. I know I asked. I know. So I will open the public hearing for anyone who has come to comment on item number 3. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and now I'll take a motion.
Mayor, I would like to respectfully make a motion that we approve item number 3 resolution number 2025029R as presented by staff.
Second.
Was that you, Natalie? Motion by Steve, seconded by Natalie. A resolution calling for a roll call vote, starting with Natalie.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Steve Kemp, aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item 4, consider approval of resolution number 2025-030R to amend the master fee schedule for fees related to the pass-through rate from the Washington County Solid Waste District. And Tiffany will present this item.
Good afternoon, good evening. So the board of the Washington County Solid Waste District did approve an increase of 2.5% to the garbage and blue can rates. This is just an increase on their portion of the bill. The city's admin portion is not being proposed to be increased. The net effect of this is an increase of 34 cents per month per customer for garbage and 16 cents per month for recycling. So 50 cents a month if a customer has both services.
We're all on that board, so we knew this was coming. Ready for motion? Or a question? Do you have a question, Steve?
I can make a motion that we approve item number 4, resolution number 2025-030R to amend the master fee schedule for fees related to the pass-through rate from the Washington County Solid Waste District.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Steve. All in favor, starting with Steve.
Steve Kemp, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item 5, public hearing and consideration of ordinance number 2025-109 to add the name Tech Ridge Parkway to the existing numbered street, 250 West Street, from 1190 South to 1300 South. And Wes Jenkins has this item.
I don't know.
So this is the new east access road that's being built, and so right now it's 250 west, and so what the applicants requested was to add the addition of Tech Ridge, and so it's a city council action, and it's also a public hearing.
Thanks, John.
Sorry.
I'm going to open the public hearing.
Thank you.
For any that else who've come to comment on item number 5. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-09 to add the name Tech Ridge Parkway to the existing numbered street, 250 West Street, from 1190 South to 1300 South.
I'll second.
Motion by Natalie, seconded by Steve. All in favor, starting with Natalie.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Steve Kemp, aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item number 6, consider approval of a property exchange of real property to Quality Development LLC for city property along Bandit Ridge Drive.
Okay, so as you may remember, last council meeting, they came forward with the request to amend that rockfall hazard line. So it was right here in the pink before, and the request was to push it out to where it is shown now on this map. Just kind of giving you some context of where you are. So the request, and as you may recall, a couple of years ago, Quality Development donated to the city all that hillside property. So with the adjustment of that line, they're requesting to have the city deed back to them this portion of the property behind these lots, with the anticipation that they'll amend the plat and each one of those lots will purchase that property.
Questions for Wes? If not, I'm ready for motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve a property exchange of real property to Quality Development LLC for city property along Bandit Ridge.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 7, consider approval of revisions to the city's hangar lease policy.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you is the latest copy of the hangar lease policy. As you're aware, in this policy, we use the term lease to describe the property agreement. This may be appropriate in some contexts, but with the FAA, they use the term lease. And this policy in front of you has the change to revisions to that for that change. As we go down through here, I've highlighted the sections inside this, like in if you follow down with me in 3.2, where it states not a ground lease. What we did is we went through here and we simplified this terms as it can be oppressed in the lease agreement, and we plan on putting that in a part of the form inside the lease agreement on how the proper way to not record on airport property.
Dustin, while you're,
yes.
so sorry to cut you off,
Yes.
but while you're on that particular point, because that was actually a question I had, was, yeah, if it's not a ground lease, then what are they leasing?
Yeah, so what they are leasing is the right to the property. The FAA will not let us encumber the property at all. The FAA says that the city has to be in control of the property. And if we let somebody record against it, then we lose control of that property, whether it's to a bank or to a mortgage company or what have you. And so in FAA compliance with the grant assurances, we're not allowed to encumber the property.
So that's an FAA, oh, sorry, I was going to say an FAA requirement that will be clarified further in the actual lease with the individual. Okay.
Yeah, and the current lease does talk about those encumbrances.
Just some background. I worked with Dustin and the legal team on this quite extensively. And one of our primary concerns was that as of today, we have a trust deed that has been filed against property inside the airfield, inside the park, or the fence, which is in violation of FAA regulations. The reason for originally calling it a license versus a lease was to try and make it very clear that people would that they would be borrowing money against their improvements sitting on the ground. After further clarification on the grant assurances, calling it a lease, it doesn't matter whether we call it a lease, a license, an agreement to use, just long as we are very clear and it is clarified more clearly in the actual lease agreement between the parties. This policy, it's not signed by anybody. It is a general policy for how we're going to, really this policy's purpose was to how we created a wait list, because we had a very long list of people who were interested in building a hangar, and we did not have that many hangars available or pads to build hangars available. And so we were trying to create a policy on how we would fairly distribute those hangar pads as they became available. It expanded into some of these other areas, but that was the main purpose, was one, to set up how the wait list works, which we did, and the wait list went from 70 people down to, Dustin, 30, 35?
I think we're even below 30 now.
Okay, we have 30 people on the wait list for all different kinds of reasons. And then secondly, we wanted to put people on notice with this policy that they would not be able to borrow against the land itself. Even in a lease situation, if you have a leasehold interest, you can borrow against your leasehold interest in the ground. Not just the fee simple interest, which most of us do when we get a mortgage on our home, is we are borrowing against the fee simple interest in the land, not the leasehold interest. The FAA will not allow either of those types of borrowing to happen. And anybody, I know that Councilman Hughes has been involved in the mortgage business in the past. one of the most difficult things to do is to get a lender to remove or reconvey their trust deed or mortgage on a piece of property, because there's really no motivation for them to do that in an expeditious manner. So that's where we're trying to head that off.
Yeah, that's correct. Even if you look at the terms of our lease, the FAA doesn't like us to go past a 50-year lease. That's like the max, because they want us to retain ownership of said property, and that's FAA guidance. And then if you go down to let's go down. We'll skip down to 3.5, the termination. So on the termination 3.5, these terms can be detailed in the new lease agreement. We figured that this would just simplify this policy, and that is something that we plan to go over in when somebody comes to get a lease. We plan to sit down with them, talk about the encumbrance problem that we have out there and the proper filing for that, and then also to go over the terminations and the details in the new lease agreement versus lengthening this policy out.
That was a great change, by the way. That was one of my concerns in voting against the last policy back in May, was that section was a big part of it. So thank you for simplifying that.
Yep, absolutely. We want things simple. When you go down to, let's see here, let me grab this, 3.6.1, talking about...
Hey, Dustin, can we go back
Yes.
to 3.7?
Yeah, absolutely.
It says it needs to be done within 2 years of the date on 3.7. The hangar needs to
The
be
hangar
complete.
construction itself, yes.
So we have, not that anybody wants to have it returned, but something happens with materials, with a natural disaster. There is a way for them to put something in writing to say we need 6 additional months. Something
Yes.
to that effect. Because sometimes people have said, well, I don't know, something happens and we're just short of 2 years, then our lease is terminated. That has been a concern that's come up.
Yeah, and inside that, if they can show, like for instance, like steel tariffs right now, that's a prime example of people and supply and demand problems. We know those problems exist. The city is in construction, right? We build things. We understand where these problems lie with inside the city. And yeah, it's my intent to work with the original leaseholder. I do not want to take somebody's lease from them. If they're productively building the hangar and accomplishing that, then yes, absolutely we'll work with them. I don't think that's anybody's intent on the council to take action on something like that.
Again, looking at the policy versus the actual agreement, the legally binding agreement between the landlord, i.e. the city, and the hangar owner or the hangar builder, I think there will be further clarification about this item in the lease itself. So that will be where that language will be spelled out more fully about, what the procedures are to extend, whether it's, steel tariffs or some other act beyond their control. That's the place for it to be spelled out.
Right, and part of that problem could be, sorry, this thing's, I'm trying to judge how far I should be off of this. I feel like I'm eating it and then it starts popping. So part of the education process that we got to do with the hangar owners out there is the proper way to gain financing. Right now, I've been working on a hangar sale for the last 3 months with an individual that's trying to buy a hangar, and they can't obtain the financing the way that the FAA would like it obtained. Now, in those type of circumstances, absolutely. We're not, it's not our interest, and it's not the city's interest to that time started 6 months ago when we finally got financing, right? What the intent inside this is the people that do start to build something finishes it, so that the city isn't inheriting somebody else's project. That's the intent here.
Dustin, I appreciate what you're saying with 3.7 and that you are willing to work with people if there's supply chain issues, things like that. I'm wondering, do we need to clarify that within the policy so that if you are extending someone 3-4 years, there's not confusion or concern that one person's being offered that and the 2 years is being forced on someone else? Do we need to add something to that language?
I would say that we should address that in the lease agreement itself, is where that binder should be, versus just in this policy. But yes, it's something that we can add some language to accommodate that.
Dustin, I had one question on 3.6.1. This is one that we discussed in some of our meetings, but the airworthy condition. Do you feel like that's adequately covered now in the 3.6.2, where if someone was doing, similar to what you've just been discussing, if they were doing a long-term repair and their plane was not in airworthy condition, that 3.6.2 adequately covers that and gives you the leeway to allow them to continue to repair it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and that's a case by case basis too, just like we
Okay.
talked about with the steel tariffs. For instance, Lycoming is having a hard time getting engine parts right now, and I'm aware of those things. And if they just, want to have that communication with me, there's no problem. There's absolutely no problem.
But again, it's spelled out. It will be in the lease agreement where those terms are spelled out, so people don't have to worry about, oh, well, we just have to rely on Dustin being a benevolent leader. That'll be spelled out in the agreement, and they'll know exactly what they need to do to get those extensions.
Yes, that's correct.
While we're on 3.6, so on 3.61, where it says no less than 20% ownership, is there an issue with this precluding possible nonprofit flying clubs? I know we have nonprofit flying clubs already out there. Is that going to potentially preclude any of those?
Right now, I'm working with a nonprofit flying club coming into the airport, and this hasn't precluded them from being able to operate. This doesn't. No, if the owner of the aircraft gives authorization for somebody to come in and fly that aircraft, then they get airfield access. That's how that works. Like we don't preclude anybody. If you were to own the airplane and you want Steve to go out and fly it, and you give Steve that authorization,
it's a huge mistake.
I was going to say I would not recommend that.
And then yeah, absolutely, because you're the owner of the aircraft or the LLC. Whoever owns that aircraft, absolutely, they have the right to be able to access that aircraft. In 3.6.2, in the middle of that, you'll see that there is a based aircraft must be flown at least once every 12 months. We cannot enforce that. That is not an airport enforcement item. That is something that I overseen. That I overlooked the last time we were doing this, and yes, we cannot force somebody to fly their aircraft. Instead, their aircraft has to remain in an airworthy state.
So that brings me to another one of my questions, because I went back and watched the meeting that we had in May when this was approved, and I voted against it because I had some concerns, but it was parroted multiple times in that meeting that outside legal counsel had approved this as meeting all FAA standards and requirements. But now obviously there's some issues in here that actually don't meet FAA requirements. Is this the same outside legal counsel that told us it was okay before?
So in that context, I was doing what I was instructed to do, and they, being the attorney, were adhering to what we were asking for. Okay, so those conversations and how that transpired, that's what we were asking to put in the policy. And so that's where that come from, is that was a mistake on my behalf that I should not have I should have caught that. That should even have went to legal counsel. I should have caught that.
But in your defense, it should have been the legal expert whoever. That's what I'm wondering. Is it the same I don't know what outside legal expert that we used that was versed in FAA, but if they read through it and gave everyone enough confidence to pass it, to me, that's just concerning that we were given that legal advice then, and then now it's obvious that there were some issues with the FAA. And I'm not faulting you for that. In fact,
no.
you didn't say that at all in that meeting, but there was multiple people who did say that in the meeting regarding the outside legal counsel. So that is just concerning because, I was concerned about it back then as well. And I'm glad to see these changes being made.
Yeah, and that's I understand my job more now than I did back in May. Let's just put it that way. Okay, then if we go down to let's go down to 3.9.2. This is the sublease fee. That we're saying instead of putting it in the policy that we would just attach it to the master fee schedule that you guys approve every year. That way you guys see it. That way you guys know what's going on. And yeah, I know that you're going to want to talk about this too. So let's just go.
Let's just talk about it, right? So yeah, that's been a concern, the sublease fee. I've heard that concern from others out at the airport. I know obviously the lease fee, you were great and sent out a comparison of those fees, and I don't feel like we are charging an extreme amount in terms of lease fee, but I do question the sublease. It sounds like it's kind of a per airport basis, not something that's standard necessarily across the board to have that sublease fee. And so I wonder if that's something that we even need to have in there as far as covering. I mean, obviously the airport is highly subsidized by the federal government and grants and user fees, which I actually appreciate that about the airport, is that it does run off of user fees. So is this an area that we could potentially help those general aviators and small businesses out there by eliminating those sublease fees?
Yeah, absolutely. Fees always can help with that, right? And eliminating fees, as you guys talked about the farmers market, right?
Could I comment on that? I've given this quite a bit of thought about the policy of the monthly leasing fees versus other types of fees. And if we look at the amount of revenue that would actually be generated by every single person subleasing a space and every single either shade structure or lease, to me it's not a significant enough amount, and I would propose that we strike that fee from the section 3.9.2 remove it from the fee schedule, and that there won't be a subleasing fee charged for leases of airplane space.
I like that change.
Okay.
Does that work for you, Dustin?
Oh yeah, absolutely it does. 100%.
In my mind, it's just not worth that juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Right. Okay, and then let's see, we went down, I can't remember exactly where we were, 3.9.1. This is just referring to that if somebody sells a hangar and that started in 2012, that they just assume that original start date when they purchased that hangar. That is what that is referring to, and that is in FAA compliance manual that we have to do that. And so we just wanted to clean that up and make it a
Which
little more
section are you in? I'm sorry.
3.9.3.
Thank you.
Yep. And then 5.1, we just eliminated the how to get on there because we've already got the hangar wait list going,
And so we just decided it didn't belong in the policy, and we could just make it a little bit shorter. So.
And people can get on the wait list now that it exists, now that it has been loaded to the website and is there, and that process has been set up. There's, I agree with your position here. There's no need to further belabor it.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. If there's any other questions?
Dustin, before
Yes.
we move too far, so back on 3.93, I'm wondering where it says it's the intent of the city to use those fees for airport purposes. If we strike that and say the city shall use fees for airport improvements and maintenance, just to give that reassurance that
Yes.
it
yeah.
will be used for those purposes. I mean, it's not going to be used for other purposes
No.
anyway, but that way it provides the public to that reassurance that it will be used for this, not
Yeah.
just our intent.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's a way for us to the people that are using it. If somebody sells a hangar and they leave the airfield, well, they're not using it anymore, and then that gives us a way to fund asphalt improvements, pavement maintenance, and stuff like that. And yes, absolutely, we can make that change.
Hang on, I've got a few more. I've got to look back over my notes, make sure what we missed here. Okay, back on 3.4, similarly, where it says shall be increased, changing that to may be increased.
I would disagree with that. We're only raising the fees once every 5 years. Our current fees are how much per square foot?
Right now is 25.5
25 cents per square foot per year, which is how much average for a pad? $1,800 a year?
Yeah, an 80 by 80. Yeah.
I think it is vital that we have that every 5-year increase and that it is consistent across the board. And we have a whole bunch of leases that are already in place that have this language in it that we don't want to be backtracking on the 100+ lease. How many leases do we have on the airfield?
I couldn't even tell you. A lot.
It's over 100.
A lot.
We would have to unwind some of those things if we were to. I just think that this type of fee raise is part of how you look at your long-term income revenue.
Grant assurances require me to, and my rates and charges to be sustainable as possible.
Yep.
And this allows me to be able to do that and comply with Grant Assurance 24.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not disagreeing that there needs to be fee increases. It was just when I saw that it shall be, I thought, well, are there ever circumstances where we don't need to? So you're saying it's set, we definitely need to in those increments.
Yes.
There's not going to be times where it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, we do. We would need to keep that going.
Okay.
A 5-cent increase or whatever the increase is, only happening once every 5 years on such a minimal lease. I think it's something that honestly, I think that the fees are for the hangar pads are below market, and that is what has created the frenzy that we had for a while for people wanting to get their hands on these hangar pads, because it provided opportunity, still does provide opportunity for people to acquire a hangar pad, build a hangar, and then make substantial amount of money on the sale of that hangar. I'm not opposed to people doing that. There's people that don't want to build their own hangar. There's people that just want to be able to step in and buy a hangar. And that's part of that's where maybe the free market steps in, and I appreciate that. I do not ever want to see the city get in the business of building and selling hangars, because we do have private individuals throughout the community that are willing to do that, and we shouldn't be competing with that private industry.
Yep, I agree. Also, in changes in rates over time, this is out of the Airport Compliance Manual. A sponsor is not foreclosed from revisiting its rental rate structure from time to time. So in the FAA Compliance Manual, they state that the airport needs to be able to adjust those rates on an as-needed basis.
Okay, one last thing on 5.3 regarding the wait list, which I completely understand why we need the wait list, the high demand. I'm in agreement with that. Some concerns that I have heard, however, is the ones who already own a hangar being essentially bypassed on the list, so not really having a full first come, first served basis if there already is ownership, being analogous to, someone owns a condo, so now they can't purchase a home type of situation, is how I've heard it compared, or concerns that way. Is there any appetite to look at making it strictly first come, first serve, regardless of current hangar ownership?
I'm afraid that we are going to rewind the clock and go back to what happened.
Because it's already been going that way for the last 9 months.
Well, that as well as we have many of the people that are on the list. Once we work through this wait list, then people that already have a hangar that want to get another one and do what we just spoke about, which is go through the process of building a hangar and then either leasing or selling that hangar, they will be able to do that. But until we work through our backlog of a whole bunch of people that are standing in line that want a hangar that have no access to the airfield and have a plane, I think we have to service those people first so that they have access to the airfield. That's we're required to give everybody equal chance to do that per the grant assurances, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And then inside that too, some of the individuals that already have a hangar out there that have other aircraft that they are currently building, they are on the hangar wait list. We didn't blackball them from that list. Those individuals are on the list.
But we are servicing those that do not have access to the airfield for their private plane first.
Yes. Yeah.
How many based on the current plans on the West Taxiway with the hangars that will be built out there, how many hangars are we going to be able to provide in the next year?
38.
And there's 30 on the wait list.
It's less than 30.
Oh, there's less than 30, and we're scheduled to have 38 available. Okay.
Yeah.
Once we've
Catching
burned
up.
through the wait list, then it's an open, then the being, just being on that list, someone could just be always on the list if they wanted.
Yeah, and that's the intent of that list, is it opens it up once we get through that list. And then
it'll go back to pre-COVID era where we had plenty of hangar pads and people would come in, ask for a hangar pad, and we would say, great, here's the map, pick your spot, pay your fees, have a nice day.
Yeah.
My fear is we're never going to get through that list if we don't pass a policy and get moving.
I'm with you.
Okay, I'm having a great time here. I can stay here all night.
Sorry. Good questions, though. I'm not faulting that.
Hey, nobody else wanted a work meeting, so we got to do it here, Jimmy.
Yep, I love it, and I think we're good with it now.
Okay, awesome. We'll go to work. Thank you.
So, Mayor, I think I heard, maybe there's 3 head nods, that on 3.9.2 to strike the last sentence, and in 3.9.3 to amend the sentence to, quote, all fees associated with an agreement shall be used by the city for the motion purposes.
Yes.
Yeah, I would go ahead and make a motion to that effect if you're okay with that, Mayor, that we approve with those changes the revised city hangar lease policy.
Second.
You sure you don't want further discussion?
No.
I don't think your mic's working.
Hey, the mayor was kicking me, making me say all that, by the way. She was ready to be done.
Yeah. My mic quit working, just FYI out there. Motion was made by who? Jimmy? Seconded by Natalie. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 8, consider approval of ordinance number 2025-110, amending section 4, construction standards in the St. George City Standard and Specifications to address an overall update to section 4.
Okay, as you know, the standards and specs have about 8 sections to them. We've been working on 1 through 4 for about a year and a half now. We just decided to get 4 done and out of the way as it has the biggest impact. And so this, we'll come back with 1 through 3. This will actually become section 3 because we're going to combine 1 and 2, and then 3 will become 2, and this will become 3. So that is one change. So basically, we've gone through all of section 4. I know if you look at the red lines, it looks like it was a complete overhaul. So the last time the standards and specs were updated was in 1999, 2000. So things have changed a lot since then, and so there was kind of a little bit. We were all younger then. So anyway, so it's changed, and so we went through that process with the geotechnical engineers, and they modified it where they needed to bring it up to standards and so forth. And so that's why you see so many changes, and also it's the way the way construction is done now and so forth. There really were only 3 big changes that would affect the development world per se. One of them was, let me see if I can find this. So right now, the way the standards read is when we do a geotechnical study for a road, the standards say you base it on a traffic index, which then translates to average daily traffic. And we've been doing that for years, and that's where you get the 3. So right now, when you pull it up right now, this is basically your minimum thicknesses of asphalt and road base based on a road. So that's your minimum, and then after that, your study, if it requires more, then you have to abide by the study, because the study just tells you, hey, you can't meet your minimums here. Rarely do we see that unless it's really poor soils. As we met with the geotechnical engineers, they said, hey, we need to change this. Your pavement thicknesses are too small right now. They're too thin. We need to really do this based on a truck loading, so based on your easels, your equivalent single axis loads. And so we need to change how we're doing it. So we went through that process with them, and this is what they came back with. So you can see that, so now the asphalt thickness for an industrial local is 7 as a minimum, 6.5 on an arterial major, 6 on an arterial minor. Right now it would be 4. Major collector would be, I think, 3.5, and then the others go 3, 2.5, 2.5. Anyway, so as we talked that through and felt like, yeah, that's the approach we need to do. We need to change that, go to a truck. Look at trucks. They're really the impact to our pavement more than just your standard vehicle. So as we did that, we looked at that, felt like, ooh, that's a big jump, and that could cause some real concerns with the development world, and it could cause increase in development and home prices and so forth. So what we decided as Public Works, that what we would do is we would hold to what they are right now. The only changes in these 3 right here, these 3 right here, I should say, they're now right now in our code, or in our spec, they're 2.5 as your minimum. We're bumping them to 3 because we feel like that's where it needs to be regardless. And so we would not help out. Public Works would not help out in those. But as you do your geotechnical report, you'll come back and it'll say, based on the truck loads, the amount of truck traffic, they'll show up as a minimum as this. Now it may get more, but that'll be where your minimum is at now. We felt like, so it's, for instance, so there's that church that they're building along 3000 East, right there where Crimson Drive ties in, just a little bit there. Anyway, if you look at that, they had to improve a portion of 3000 East. If we kept with these minimums, they would be required to put in 6 inches of pavement over 10 inches of road base. The church doesn't create that kind of road traffic and truck traffic, but it's just that they're located on an arterial road. So we felt that was unfair. So we've made the decision, and so what we put in here is the city or Public Works, for major collectors all the way through industrial locals, Public Works would pay the difference from what they're at now to what they are shown in the geotechnical report, with these being the minimum. And the reason we felt good about that, again, it's like the church. What I was telling you, church.
It's about on Horseman Park, right over there.
Yeah. So is that example, they really don't generate that kind of truck traffic. And so we felt like we really want the thicker pavement. It'll help, and the road base it'll help make the roads last longer. So we felt like Public Works should pay for that increase on those type of roads, because they generate traffic more than just for their business. They generate it for, it's traffic coming through there for other businesses. So that was one change we felt like we would make.
Since you bring that roadway up, though, it's a 5-lane road, and how it goes back into the industrial park one day or the other. How do you justify that right there? Because there are trucks that go up and down that road. There's a lot of construction trucks that go up and down that road.
Right.
I know the intent of the church isn't that, but that is a major road, and there is a lot of trucks that go up and down that road. Like, I could see if it was on Crimson Ridge Drive, that would be different. But 3000 is a heavily used road. And when they bring up those cement trucks, all the stuff up that road, it does create some tracks in the road.
Wes, aren't you saying that you actually will do the thicker pavement, but the city will pay the difference?
Right. So we would go back to what's in our standard now based on just traffic loads, and we'd go back to this. So on that one right there, they would be responsible for the minimum 3.5.
So
go ahead.
So just real quick, I think to help clarify, so we're not able to require them to put in more pavement than what their use would require.
Right.
And so if their use has a certain impact, that's what they're required to put in. And anything above that, the city would step in and put in that pavement. And so in that situation, the church would have a certain amount of pavement that they'd have to do based on that use. And what this is proposing is to increase that pavement width, because we know there's a lot of truck traffic. And so instead of us having to go in the future and repave that street, we're able to go in now at a cheaper cost, pay the difference, have an increased amount of asphalt, and it saves us money in the future.
Correct. Thank you. So that's kind of what we're after on that one. So that was one big change. The other change is just to right now, and I'll try to keep this short because it's super boring. Right now, when you go out and you're doing your road base and that, you have to do a gradation, and I'll show you right here. I hate to bore you, but anyways, so I'm just going to do it really quick. So let's say on a 1/2 inch, you come in, you're doing a grade 1. This is for your road base. You're supposed to be in 79 to 91% of that should pass, or should pass through that sieve. And so if yours is, let's say it's 80 right here on that 1/2 inch, you have a tolerance of plus or minus 11. So it can either come in at 91 or it can come in at, what's 11 minus 80? 69. And so I was making sure John knew my maths right. So anyways, so that's where you would fall. The problem we're having is we get it's just the way it is right now with gravel and that. We don't have the best gravel anymore that we used to have, and we had it in abundance. And so we're starting to see where it creeps outside of those areas, and it creeps out of it's like instead of 80, you're getting down, instead of 70, you're now getting in at 68. Well, what the code or what the specs allow now is, okay, you're out of your compliance. What you can do is just run a CBR test, which determines strength of your road base, and then a sand equivalent, which determines, its ability to drain it. Well, they never fail those tests, and I've been getting a lot of heat from the inspectors over the years about this. They never fail those tests, and so we just approve it, move on, even though it's substandard road base. So what we've done is we've changed it so that, let me see if I can find it. It's right. I think it. So what we've done is we've changed it, and I don't have that. We've put in there now where we have, so this would be your acceptance limit. So let's say you came in on that one just before. So during your testing, it came in at 80. You're now below the 69. That's the 11%. Let's say it came in at 67. Then the city would require you to still do a CBR and a sand equivalent test if you were lower than that, up to 15%. If it passed, great, we'd let you. But if you get more than 2 of those, then we would say, no, you're out of compliance, even though you passed in the suspension limit. This would give them a little buffer, but they can't have more than 2 into that buffer. And then we'd make them stop and go get new road base. However, if it goes below the suspension limit, you're out, stop immediately. You have to go get a new source for your road base and go through the whole testing process. So we're just trying to tighten that up a little bit so we get a better road base section, which is very important to the support of your road. So that's another change that they'll have to really watch now, and it will affect them because they are out of compliance a lot, but they're running those tests and they're meeting them. And so we're tightening that up to get a better road base in there to help our roads last longer. So that's another change. And then again, the rest of them are pretty minor changes. So those are really the 2 big ones that will affect the contractors. But the first one, like I said, we've proposed that the Public Works just pays for the cost difference in the asphalt and road base thicknesses.
Wes, do we have any sort of projections on what kind of, how much that's going to cost the city?
No, but it shouldn't be too great because, if you look at it, 80, I don't know what the percent, but it's a high percentage of your roads. So it will increase so right now, like I said, the local right now is 2.5, 2.5, and 2.5 on the collector. And so we're going to hold them to doing that portion of it. We've increased it to 1/2 inch on all 3 of those and the road base, and that's where the majority of your roads are. And so that's where they'll have to absorb that cost because we feel like, hey, we've been short all along. You just need to step up and start paying. But as far as the other roads, the major collectors and arterials, it shouldn't impact development too much because we don't see those very often. Most of your major collectors and your arterials are almost built out. Really, the only one coming in that's an arterial street would be Gap Canyon Parkway, and we're going to end up helping build some of that anyways and work with the developer. So it shouldn't have that big of an impact on development.
I guess my question is more like, we're basically, by doing this, we're adding expense
to the city.
But I'm thinking that we could also prove long-term that we're reducing expense.
Correct.
So I guess that's more what my question is can we show the public that, yes, we're adding thickness, we're adding depth to the pavement, but we're able to show the data on why that makes sense because we're saving money long-term.
Right, because really we're saving on the long-term when repairing a road or going in there and, actually tearing up the road and reconstructing it. And I don't think we've really run a number on that. We could do that and look at that, what that cost savings is, what we project, how long the road will last relative to how long they're lasting now. We could look at that. We haven't really run any numbers on that.
I mean, it would be good for us to know that because if it's cheaper to do, the thinner pavement and just repair it, it would just be good for us to be able to show why we're choosing this route.
Okay, we can look into that.
Other questions for Wes? I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-110, amending section 4 construction standards of the St. George Standard and specifications to address the overall update to section 4.
Second.
Motion by Natalie, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Steve.
Steve Kemp, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item number 9, consider approval of ordinance number 2025-111, approving a development agreement amendment for Kachina Cliffs Phase 1, Lot 24, and Kachina Cliffs Phase 2, Lot 38.
So as you may remember, back in, I think it was like April, we came in and did a development agreement with the owner or the builder of Kachina Cliffs Lot 29 because they had disturbed into the area on their property that was deemed undisturbable. They came in, traded some property on another lot they owned, Lot 38, and so forth. And we went through and did a development agreement with them. As we got into August, I can't remember how we found out, but when they were developing the lot, they felt like they needed to protect the lot more, and so they built some drainage improvements even further up into that area that was deemed undisturbable. We noticed it, went out and notified them, and so what they've come back, they requested to amend the agreement. So we've written an amended agreement, and basically the amended agreement had 3 points to it. One was you'll need to take from that lot 38 again an area similar to what you've disturbed in lot 24. You'll need to pay any legal fees that the city has incurred from a lawsuit from somebody in Entrada. They have Jamie told me they have paid that. They paid the cost of the legal fees that the city has incurred so far. And then the other one was just to paint that area or treat that drainage structure and kind of dress it up so it blends in more with the natural surroundings. So those were the 3 parts of the agreement, and I'll just show you. So they'll have to then come back also and then amend their final plat on both lots. So it will basically increase. So lot 24, basically the increase is right in this area here is about 1,200 square feet that they've added to that area to the disturbed. So this will become open area that can be disturbed on their plat, and then they've taken this portion out of lot 38, and that will become undisturbable on lot 38. I know it looks a little strange, but this area to the south right there, it's already undisturbable, and so they didn't show that on their plat. That's already shown. This area right here was part of the original agreement, and this right here is part of the amended agreement. So that they came back, and it's an amendment to that development agreement.
So the legal action with the developer and the HOA has been resolved?
I believe you could ask Jamie that.
Well, I just want to be clear on that. If there's any future problems, that lies with the developer, not with the city.
Sorry, yes, the initial lawsuit was an appeal of a land use decision. The appellants have withdrawn that, and they're not going to be able to refile it. So that's resolved. We had a final number for the legal fees on that matter, and as Wes indicated, those have been paid.
Good.
Tiffany's holding that check.
Thank you.
Other questions for Wes? Ready for a motion?
Yeah. Go ahead. Doing it at the same time. And I assume the developer obviously was agreeable to all of this and saw this as a good compromise, I guess, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And they've signed the agreement and everything, so we're ready to go.
Perfect. So I will go ahead and approve ordinance number 2025-111, approving a development agreement amendment for Kachina Cliffs Phase 1, Lot 24, and Kachina Cliffs Phase 2, Lot 38.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Natalie.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Steve Kemp, aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 10 is a consider approval of an MOU with Washington City regarding the 2025 St. George City Annexation Policy Plan, and Ryan has this item.
This MOU was approved by Washington City 2 weeks ago. It essentially removes Parcel F out of our annexation policy plan, and it resolved their concerns, Washington City, and what's identified as Parcel D remains in our city. And so it was a way for us to come together and address their concerns, and basically just forces that F into Washington City. It can't come into St. George City.
If there's no questions, I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the MOU with Washington City regarding the 2025 St. George City Annexation Policy Plan.
I'll second.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Steve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item number 11, consider approval of ordinance number 2025-112, amending the city's general plan to adopt an annexation policy plan as an element of the general plan. Carol will present this item.
Okay, we are back for the final time for the annexation policy adoption process. This started in April. We've gone through several public hearings and meetings. We are now at the final stage. Oh, look, that's messed up, but that's okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, so just a refresher, the policy, the annexation policy, it does follow state code. It outlines how utilities will be extended, how growth is paid, and this is all growth in the city, how it's all paid through impact fees, and it explains how a person will annex into the city, and that the growth, all annexation growth must be consistent with the general plan. This slide here shows you the map right here to the right. This is the original map we had. There was areas A through F, but as we just talked about the MOU that we had with Washington City, we've removed area F from our plan due to the agreement with the City of Washington. So this is the new plan. It just has everything the same, except it does have area F missing. I've mentioned this before, about the same policy that we had back in 2009, and this is just those two together. I'm going to quickly go over each area. We have 5 of them. Area A, this one is north up in the Habitat Conservation Plan. If we do annex any area in this area A, it will be for utilities, roadways, or recreational purposes only. Area B, kind of the same. It's part of that Habitat Conservation Plan. You can see by the polka dotted area, and if we do annex that, it'll be mostly sensitive lands for recreational purposes. Area C, this is that area off of Dixie Drive. The vulture is what it kind of looks like. If we annex this, it'll be for any kind of development. It's used for agricultural purposes right now. You can see there's a lot of floodplain in that location, which we'll have to mitigate if we do annex. Area D, southeast portion of the city or beyond the city, this does have floodplain as well. So there are sensitive lands in here. This would be open if we annex into any type of future development. And then, okay, and the final one is Area E. It's outlined in red there. You can see the part up on the top of the screen outlined in a dashed purple line. That's the area F that we are no longer considering. So that's area E. It's serviced by Washington City Fire right now, and its property is undeveloped. So that's what we have. We did present this to the Planning Commission. They did recommend approval. We've already had our public hearing here for City Council, so this is just your approval if you do wish to approve this.
Questions for Carol?
I have a question, maybe not just for Carol. We've got that donut hole, see, the Goobler property that we are providing all the services for. What do you mean by mitigate the floodplain or the river? What mitigation would we be required to do if we annex that property in?
If we annex the property and someone would like to develop on it, actually it would be the developer that if they wanted to go into the floodplain, they'd have to mitigate that, either raise up the property or put in some riprap or something so that they don't have floodplain issues. It's just meeting the code. It's what everyone has to do whenever they develop around floodplain.
Well, they've already got development on that parcel in several places, and in the last year, they raised a large portion of that property.
Right. And I will say that the map that you saw, that is our floodplain map, but we do have several properties that have petitioned to FEMA to be removed from the floodplain because of the mitigation they did. So it's not quite 100% accurate. So there could be some areas in there that are no longer in the floodplain. But it's just something we look at when we bring a piece of property in, whether it's going to go on the hillside or whether it's going to be in the floodplain. It's just something just to make you aware of.
Is there a reason we're not annexing that property? I know the Gooblers were against it 100 years ago, but what's going on now?
We typically have been annexing property as the property owner wishes to annex, and so the city typically hasn't gone out and forced annexation, and so we're just waiting for them to submit a annexation request.
We're providing all the services to this piece of property, and I understand Orwin's family's been there for forever, and they're still farming a big section of it. But they have taken a bunch of the property and they've brought it into residential use, subdividing it on the west side of the property. It just seems that we should. It's the only piece that's a donut hole that we should pursue annexation. Is that possible?
If the council wishes to provide direction to do so, then I'm sure we could figure it out. But until then, we'll wait for the applicant to submit a request.
Those parcels that have come into residential have been annexed.
Correct.
And I guess there's so few
The
places
parcel
that people can farm.
where he just built his large home out of brick and lifted the ground up for about 5 acres all the way around it, that had not been annexed.
Right. The subdivided parts have been. That's still part of the whole, I believe. But yeah, I understand.
Is there any benefit for not annexing?
I would just say, and I'm going to fully disclose this as well, as the owner of Parcel E.
Yes.
I'm in the same situation as an part-time agriculture producer. The thought process is if we annex that, we might lose some of our uses. Now I know we can be grandfathered in, but it's to us that are doing those farm activities and agriculture activities. It's more of we feel like we have a better chance of continuing that lifestyle and that activity as being in the county, if I can say it that way.
As somebody in that hobby farm situation who is in the city, I agree with Councilmember Hughes, and I understand that. They're so few and far between where we see that anymore that I would hate to pressure anybody into giving up that agriculture that really has a strong heritage in this area.
I love the Goobler farm there. I live over on that side of town, the only member of the council that does. As a hobby farm, Natalie, you say you own your 20 acres that you live on. Have you seen any change in your ability to farm because you're inside the city boundaries versus not?
It's hard for me to say because I'm not in the county. So I'm in the city, and people in the county, Jimmy probably could explain this, county has different rules than cities do.
Mm-hmm.
They're more liberal as far as what goes on in the county than they are in a city, just by the nature of a more urban area.
Okay, thank you.
I would just say that in having a polite but elevated conversation with one of my neighbors, they had already explained to me, and this is the benefit, that they had already called both cities and found out that there's nothing they could do because I was in the county. So yes, there is at least for me, a perceived advantage. I mean, I don't trust the guy sitting up here to make the right decision. So
that's a very good point. So you trust the county commissioners more than you do us.
Well, they seem to be more agriculturally friendly. This is a very sensitive issue, but I do want to again make it very clear that I plan on voting on this issue, but I am a property owner of a parcel or whatever we're calling it, Area E. So, and for my intent, just so everybody knows, my intent is to keep it a farm as long as I can through my lifetime. So, yeah, I don't know. And is there further
I just
discussion?
wanted
on
to
it?
understand why we would
Yeah.
have a donut hole, the only donut hole in the city and we've annexed the property, all the Burgess property that used to be kind of a leg that came in from the south. We annexed all the Burgess property in because we needed to put in Gap Canyon Parkway. And now we have this donut hole sitting there. And I just wanted to understand what the thinking was for why we would not just approach the Gooblers with them annexing and maintaining their zoning, maintaining their use, all those kind of things. But I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
And you make a great point, Steve, because we are providing services, obviously emergency services to those areas,
And
even
water and
Yep,
power
Yes,
and sewer.
that is correct. In my case, the power would be coming from Dixie Power, but yes, water and any of those things and emergency services, absolutely. So there is but there are very few left.
And I appreciate that, and I enjoy driving by it many times a week, and it doesn't bother me that it's there. Maybe it's the OCD in me saying, "Can we clean up this map?"
It is the OCD in you.
In saying that, Steve, it doesn't bother you, but it may bother other residents.
Bother who?
Other residents.
Yeah, I have one neighbor. Most of my neighbors actually are every time they see a piece of equipment parked on my property, they call me, text me, because they have a neighborhood text about the horses, and they have names for them all. You're not developing, are you? Because the day you do, we're moving. We love it. They even love the flies, I guess. I don't know that come along with it. But there's always one or two that just, they were promised that there was going to be nice homes built behind them. Yeah, so
There's also those that were promised there would have open space behind them forever.
yeah, right. Yeah. Real estate agents.
Scumbags.
Are you ready for a motion, Mayor? Yes. Okay. If there's no other discussion, I will. And can I, Mayor?
Maury just got his headline for that. Scumbags.
Well, also
that came
I'm
from Steve, though.
Make
not
sure
me.
you quote it, Maury. That'll be the first time you've ever quoted me on anything.
Yeah. Nice. Mayor, also, I'm asking if after this vote, if I can take a moment of personal privilege.
You may.
Okay, I will go ahead and, if I can get back to where we are, item number 11, make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2025, -112, amending the city's general plan to adopt an annexation policy plan as an element of the general plan.
I second the motion.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Steve. All in favor, starting with Steve.
Steve Kemp, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor. And just a couple of points that I wanted to make that motion because that's my last motion as a city council member, and after 14 years. And the mayor and I are kind of like dinosaurs. She not, but maybe me. The only person more of a dinosaur in this room is Guzman, who is like dinosaur bones. But
I was going to say, I don't look like a dinosaur, so that's kind of offensive, but go ahead.
But I just wanted to say that the mayor and I go way back. We've known each other for a long time through the good and the bad. And I've appreciated our relationship. I got to know the mayor and the Randall family when I first ran for city council years ago. And we've been through a lot of different things together. I choose to remember one of my favorite things that the mayor and I got to do together when we had this episode in our country's history where there was a big push to of defunding the police. There was a big deal, there was this push, and the mayor, to her credit, came to me, and as we had some discussions, she said, we should be doing something opposite of that. We should be finding ways to increase funding to our police department to make sure people understand how important they are and make sure those guys know that we appreciate them, because there was a lot of, they were basically getting ran through the streets. It was just not good. And so she came up with a plan to do some Back the Blue signs that we were able to encourage the community to come and get. She put that together. We got some initial funding, and we were able to go out and have the public, and I had those signs at my business, and tons and tons of people came and got those signs, and it was something that I appreciated that we got to do together. So, and that's something I'll never forget, and I appreciate those and many other ideas that you've come up with, and the hard work that you have done for the city. Being this is our last meeting, I wanted to make sure you understood that and understood my appreciation for our working relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate that. It is our last council meeting of 2025. So I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. But it is also my last council meeting. And it has been an absolute honor and privilege to serve the city for 12 years. 7 as a council and 5 as the mayor. My family has sacrificed a lot. And my dad's here tonight. I love you and happy birthday. He's spending his birthday at this boring meeting. I wrote Jimmy a message on the back of my sheet and said, I'm not going to miss Thursday nights. But my family, they've supported me. And my mom was actually happy I wasn't reelected because she's seen a lot of the hatred and the threats, and it scared her in today's world. My granddaughter, who also has a birthday today and is turning 12, happy birthday, Cove, I love you. She was over at my house 2 weeks ago, and she said, Grandma, I'm sad you're not going to be the mayor, but I'm happy you're going to be with us more. I've missed a lot of ball games on Thursdays. And I have a 16-year-old grandson that plays lacrosse. All of my grandkids are involved in either dance or sports of some kind. And so I will be grateful to spend more time with my family. And Tony won't be so bored home alone on Thursday nights with just him and the dog. We have an amazing city, and it's because of the residents that live here. I've told everybody, I've been here a long time. There were 8,000 people when we moved here in 1978. We've grown huge. And even though we're the 5th largest city in Utah, we still maintain that small town feel because of our residents. I can't say enough good about the department heads that we have. They are absolutely incredible. They work so hard to carry out the council's wishes. And thank you. It's been an honor. It's been a privilege to work with you. I still have real estate at Tonnequin Cemetery, so I'm not going anywhere until I end up there. Jimmy will do a great job. He loves this city as well and was born and raised here. He's been here a few years longer than me. I appreciate all the council members I've had the opportunity to work with. I've worked with 3 city managers, and it's really been great. I've made some long-lasting friendships that I'll carry with me for forever. But I am looking forward to my Thursday nights back, and I was telling someone today, I think it was John, my family
I have 4 children, 11 grandkids, and the last time we went on a vacation together was in 2008 before my oldest son left for an LDS mission. And he was back for 6 weeks when my second son left for an LDS mission. And then my girls got married, my oldest son got married, and so we're actually all going to Disneyland in January, all 21 of us. And I'm looking forward to that, to not have to answer my phone and to just get to be with my kids and my grandkids and my husband. I have the best parents in the world, Dad. My husband has been quite ill for some time. And so you'll see my dad by my side a lot. Because he's a protector. No matter that I'm going to be 60 in a couple months, I'm still his baby girl. And I appreciate you always having my back and caring about my safety and supporting me. Christina, Steve, Michelle, Danielle, Jimmy, Natalie, John, Ryan, thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege. And it's not goodbye, it's just see you later. As I pass the baton to Jimmy on January 5th, and I'm grateful that the Interfaith Council asked us both to attend prayer over the city. They did that with Mayor Dan and John, and I think it sets a good precedent going forward. With that, Council, I'm not going to take any reports, but I'm sorry, we have a stupid closed session, Ryan, or are you going to cancel it for me?
Mayor, if you're not doing any reports, can I just take a second for personal privilege?
Yes.
I just want to say how much I have appreciated working with you, especially over these last couple of years. I don't know if there's anyone else up here who had quite the public tumultuous relationship that the 1L versus the 2L Michelle's once had, which to me that's way, way in the past. And, you know, I'm so grateful over the last couple of years. I had a really, people have asked, you know, you and the mayor seem like you're such good friends. What happened? I'm like, well, that's a good thing to, you know, be friends and get along with the people that you work with. You don't have to always agree on every single issue to respect one another and do what's best for the city, which is why we're ultimately all up here serving, because we do love the city and want to do what's best for the city. And so I think it was probably close to 2 years ago now, or a year and a half ago, I had a very strong prompting that we needed to go to lunch together. And I am so grateful for that lunch that we had together and to be able to have that heart to heart and see each other as human beings. And it's been great working with you, especially over these last couple of years. And I'm excited for you and your new opportunities and that you get your Thursdays back. In some ways, maybe we're all a little bit jealous of that. But anyway, I just wanted to say how much I have appreciated working with you.
Thanks, Michelle, and I still want to hold that baby when you have it.
Just to attest to who Mayor Randall is. So when I ran for council the first time, which was in 2019, and I won, she called me and she said, let's go to lunch. And I was kind of scared because I knew she'd been campaigning really hard against me and I didn't know her very well. And I said, yeah, sure. So we went to lunch and she sat down and the very first thing she said is, well, I campaigned really hard against you. And I said, oh, yeah, I know you did. And she said, but here we are. we're together now, and so let's do some good for this city. And then we just had this productive lunch and sat there and chatted about how much we love the city and what we could do and how we could work together. And that speaks to her character. She didn't pretend with me. She's always exactly who she is. She didn't put on any fronts. She just said, here we are. And she's always been honest. She's always had such integrity. I've just really been so honored to work with her and to watch her leadership and to see her sacrifices. And I think she's exactly the reason why we live in such a beautiful place, because people like her run for office, which is scary. You feel threatened at times. Your family feels threatened. There's so many things that happen that you just have to keep reminding yourself, I'm not sure why I'm doing this. And then you look around you and you say, this is why I'm doing this, because I love this community, I love the people in it. And she's been an incredible example of that from the very first day that I met her. And it's just been an absolute honor to work with you.
Since we're doing it, my personal privilege will just be
Thank you all. With that, I will have a motion to adjourn. Motion by Steve, second by Natalie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thursday.